opening. I'd like to thank you all for coming to the Louisville Mayor and City Council Candidate Forum, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Boulder County, the Louisville Chamber of Commerce, and the Louisville Downtown Business Association. The Louisville Chamber of Commerce supports and promotes businesses throughout the area. The Chamber works year-round to promote both their member businesses and the community in which we all work and live. The Chamber's mission is to advance the economic, business, cultural, and civic welfare of the city of Louisville and its citizens. The Downtown Business Association is an all-volunteer organization whose mission is to keep and enhance historic downtown Louisville as a unique, vibrant, and enriching place to live, work. The Louisville DBA supports the retail, restaurant, and service sectors by providing programs and forward-thinking initiatives and proactively effectively advocating for the betterment of downtown Louisville. I want to introduce myself. I'm Josephine Porter. I'm a proud member of the League of Women Voters, and I'm pleased to serve as today's moderator. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. For over 100 years, we have encouraged informed and active participation in government and influenced public policy through education and advocacy. To remain nonpartisan, the League never supports or opposes political candidates or parties. Now to the forum. For the November 7th, 2023 municipal election, Louisville voters will be asked to elect a mayor and four city council members. 3 candidates are running for the 4-year term of mayor. That's candidate Summer, candidate Lee, and candidate Cooperman. Candidate Dickinson is unopposed for Ward 1. Candidate Fahey and Colbert are running for a single 4-year term in Ward 2. And candidates Hefner and Hamilton are running for City Council Ward 3. The candidate in Ward 3 who has the highest number of votes will serve a 4-year term. The second highest candidate will serve a 2-year term. The format for tonight's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. We will then begin with questions that have been both submitted electronically, online to the League, and submitted tonight by you, the audience. Audience members may submit questions by writing them on the index cards that were available from our volunteers. We have volunteers spread out throughout the audience. They'll wander around, and if you have a question, I suggest you hold up your hand like this and someone will come get it and bring it up to our sorting table. Questions are reviewed by the volunteer screeners for clarity, and we may combine, and we have already, for the subjects that we've seen, several similar questions into one question on that topic. We will try to ask the candidates as many questions as time permits, but I'm thinking we probably only have time for 9 to 10 questions. We will share the questions that are not asked with the candidates. For most questions, the candidates will have up to 1 minute to answer. However, I may expand the time to answer depending on the question. I suggest if you do have questions that you get them up to our sorting table early on in the forum, because we'll be moving along pretty quickly. The forum is being recorded for live streaming on the League of Women Voters YouTube channel, and will also be available for viewing after the forum on the League's website, Vote 411, and the Louisville Chamber of Commerce's website. Just a little decorum issue. Please refrain from clapping, booing, otherwise showing your disrespect or approval. Please respect the candidates and honor the dignity of democracy. Disruptions will only delay the forum. The candidates are seated in the order they will appear on the general election ballot. If you are in a whatever specific ward you are in, you will only be able to vote in that ward, and also for the mayor. Now to the opening statements. and questions. For the opening statement, we will begin with mayoral candidate Summer.
Thank you. I'm Sherry Summer, and I'm the best candidate for mayor because I listen, I respond, and I listen. For the last decade, I've been a grassroots leader, listening to your concerns and representing your voices at City Council. I created and co-led an airport noise group to bring citizens' concerns to our leaders in the FAA. As you may know, I led a campaign to keep the size of the Red Tail Ridge development consistent with the wants and needs of our residents. After City Council approved a sprawling development plan, I organized a team of volunteers to fight that, and we won, even though we were outspent $93,000 and we had only $3,000. I'm pro-business and I support development, but like most of you, I don't support sprawl. I want you to know that I've worked hard on my campaign and my team has knocked on every single door in Louisville because I want to hear what you have to say. Being mayor isn't about what I want. It's about you, what you need and want.
Thank
I'm
you.
the listener Louisville needs. Thank you.
Mayor candidate Lay.
I want to be your choice to be the next mayor of Louisville. Why? 3 reasons. I'm experienced, I'm engaged, and I'm effective. First, in applying for the job, I believe I had the deepest well of experience to apply to the job. I've been a Louisville resident for 29 years, raised a family here, had a small business. I've led boards and nonprofits. I've had the privilege of representing Ward 1 for the past 9 years. I have demonstrated a proven ability to ensure the continuity of the small town character we all cherish and help manage the change and challenges in front, economically, socially, and environmentally. Second, I'm engaged, build respectful relationships with people. Third, I think I've been effective in bringing a lot of new things to the city, including the 42 underpass, helping to support decarbonization and to help to revitalize the Sam's Club in Barcelona.
Thank you.
McCaskill. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I've gotten you all in the wrong order because I think Mr. Mayor candidate Cooperman will be, so we're going to switch you. His ballot order. Sorry.
All the way up to their mouth.
And we're going to ask you to hold the mic very close to your mouth so we can hear you. The next, we're going to begin with the opening statement of candidate Cooperman.
Thanks.
Good evening. I thank the League of Women Voters, the Louisville Chamber of Commerce, and the Downtown Business Association for organizing this forum, and I thank all of you for attending and participating. I am Josh Cooperman, a husband, a father, a scientist, an educator, an advocate, a volunteer. As mayor of Louisville, I will work with my fellow city council members, our city staff, and the entire community to secure a vibrant, sustainable, prosperous, and inclusive future for generations to come. Together, we will move Louisville forward on protection for our environment, forward on resilience to climate change, forward on affordability of housing for current and future residents, forward on support for established and new businesses, all intimately interconnected to the preservation and revitalization of our community. As I have embraced civic engagement since settling in Louisville, I call upon all of you to join me in shaping and strengthening the city we love.
Now, Ward 1 candidate, I think it's
Hi, everybody. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this on. Thank you to all of you for showing up. Your engagement is super, super important. And thank you to everybody up here at this table for volunteering your time to be a council member or mayor. It's a huge task. And so I just think it's fantastic that so many people are interested on both sides. I'm here as an unopposed candidate. Elephant in the room, like, why am I even here? I did actually think about skipping out of respect for the people that are running in competitive races, and so what I will try to do tonight is keep my answers brief, so that they have more time. But I'm here because I care. I care about what you guys are concerned about, and I really want you to hear what I think and what I'm fighting for and what I believe in. So even though my election is a foregone conclusion, my role as a council member for the next 4 years is definitely important to me, and I want to do it the right way. So thank you all very much.
Ward 2 candidate Fahey.
Thank you. I am Debbie Fee. Oops,
I'll turn it over.
I'm on city council right now. I'm your mayor pro tem. I've been on for 4 years and I'm hoping to continue. I've been a resident of Louisville for 43 years. I raised my children here and have volunteered at many different organizations, the museum, the senior center, the library, and the DBA and the Chamber of Commerce. I actually got Volunteer of the Year from the Chamber of Commerce one year. And I want to continue doing that. I'm interested in the well-being and character of Louisville, establishing a foundation of sustainable housing, and ensuring the health, safety, and sustainability of our residents. And that includes everything from housing to fire mitigation to safe streets, everything that keeps us safe and happy in this town. Thank you all for coming, and I hope to continue serving.
Ward 2 candidate Colbert.
Hi there, good evening, everyone, and thank you, League of Women Voters, for this forum. I appreciate it. My name is George, and my last name is still up for debate. Some say Colbert, some say Colbert. You take your pick. I'll answer to either one of those. My family and I were drawn to this community for its small, vibrant small town charm, walkability, and welcoming atmosphere. But like many of you, I've witnessed some unique challenges that Louisville faces. From businesses leaving to the aftermath of the Marshall Fire, I believe it's crucial that our city council is proactive, solution-driven, financially responsible, and innovative. In my professional life, I've made a career out of addressing challenges head-on, fostering customer-centric approaches and ensuring that visions turn into actionable realities. With these challenges comes opportunities for positive change, growth, and revitalization. While experience is invaluable, a fresh perspective can also be a catalyst for innovative solutions. I'm running for city council in Ward 2. Thank you.
Ward 3 candidate Hefner.
Yes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks very much to our hosts, the League of Women Voters and the Chamber and DBA. It's really great to see a packed room tonight. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you and all of my fellow candidates. Like Councillor Dickinson, I'm running unopposed for my Ward 3 seat, and I'm going to take a page from his book and try and be brief tonight. But I really do think this is such an important opportunity for us to meet all of you and for you to meet all of us. Just briefly on why I want to do this. I think local government is a really important place where people come together and make difficult decisions about the future. And my vision of the future is really to build on the strengths of Louisville's past. I think you've heard some of those already tonight: our small town character, our commitment to open space, and really our commitment to this kind of community. We're also facing a lot of new challenges like wildfire mitigation, the need to create affordable housing, and changing land use patterns overall. And when I'm elected again, I really look forward to addressing those issues on your behalf. Thank you.
The next, we'll start with the first question will be to candidates. Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. I tried.
All right, so
I want to thank the league, the chamber, and the DBA for hosting this tonight. I'm going to use my 1 minute to share with you a little bit about who I am. So we'll have plenty of time tonight to hear about my views on different topics. I'm a scientist, a clinician, a wife, and a mother. My husband's a professor at the university. My daughter is a wonderfully charismatic third grader at LES who informed me recently that when she grows up, she wants to be a mommy, a scientist, and a city council member. Hey, Mom. I've worked in the healthcare and biotech sectors for over a decade, both as an individual contributor and as a leader. I strive to be authentic and calm, forward-thinking. I strive to use my data and make critical analysis of that data to make informed, forward-thinking decisions. So I think my experiences in these roles in biotech as a leader and individual contributor have prepared me to continue to serve you all as City Council member in Ward 3.
Thank you. Sorry. Sorry, we only have one mic. For the first question of the evening, and we'll start with mayoral candidate Lay. The city of Louisville has seen a loss of businesses in our area. What would be within your power to do to improve our ability to attract and retain businesses? What specific actions do you propose to take to increase the economic vitality of Louisville?
You're raising the, can everybody hear me? No, probably. It's like they turn it around and turn it around. You're raising the $1 million question. The kinds of things that I think I want to do or foster fall into a couple of different buckets. One is to lighten as much as we can and appropriately the regulatory load that we place on businesses to get here and to stay here. The second is, I think we have spent far too much in the last several years on applying mandates, unfunded mandates to business instead of incentivizing. And we have tools like the business assistance program and other tools to help us to incentivize the behaviors that we want and the kind of city we want as well. And then finally, it's a recognition that we need to revitalize by reforming our planning and land management code.
Mayor candidate Cooperman.
Thank you very much for that question. I'd like to make a few points. One thing that we should do as a city.
Can't hear you.
Sorry. One thing that we should do as a city. We should make sure that we have predictable and reliable planning processes for businesses. I'm sure we can accomplish most of that by some simple reforms in our planning department without actually making any ordinance changes. Secondly, I think that we need to have better communication between the city and our businesses and potential new businesses. That communication has definitely improved, I'd say, in the last year or so. But I think we could do much better. And I've suggested that the mayor should meet regularly, maybe even monthly, with business owners. The other thing I would like to suggest is that we need to be supportive of more housing in Louisville, particularly near our business centers, because our businesses could use more customers and they could use places for our employees to live.
Ward candidate Dickinson. Let me explain to everyone, because it's difficult to keep track of if the candidates would like me to stay within the mayor and then stay, okay, we'll do it that way then. I'll try and keep up with it. We'll go with Mayor candidate Summer.
Thank you so much for being flexible. So this is a financial The finances of the city are the top concern that I hear from residents. This is the number one thing that they're concerned about, vacancies, and they're concerned about a thriving downtown. I recognize this, and I've been to speaking to business leaders and going to all the meetings that pertain to business. The Revitalization Commission, the Economic Vitality Commission, finance and budget meetings. And I'm thinking long and hard, and I've incorporated ideas that I've heard from business leaders into my platform. We do need to cut red tape. We need to make sustainability codes achievable for businesses. We need to continue to make the planning process more transparent. And I'm very pleased that our new city manager is right on top of that, and he's working very hard to make that a possibility. I am 100% for a thriving business community. We need to fund all of our departments as they need to be funded. Thank you.
Now with Ward 1 candidate Dickinson.
I'm gonna stay seated, played a ton of pickleball today. Out of respect for some of the people that would like to remain seated while we speak, I'm gonna vary it up. As far as economic vitality goes, what's really important to me is relationships and understanding what businesses are going through. Sometimes politicians, car salesmen, business people get lumped into this thing that they aren't. They're human beings that are running a business. And when you know what is difficult for them, the cost of labor, the cost of rent, the cost of the supplies, when you understand the struggles to meet the sustainable codes that we put out there, then you can start to work with them to find solutions. Because the idea isn't, well, if I can't do it, then you're not welcome. It's, well, how do we do it together? And so Councilmember Lay mentioned incentives. That's part of it, right? Working with them to understand what are the problems you're having and what can we do to solve them? Why is the place vacant? There's a reason, right? And so trying to work with them to understand what their problems are and try to find creative solutions together.
Ward candidate Fahey, Ward 2.
Thank you. Yes, I'm going to agree with everything the former members have said. It's important to find out what problems the businessmen are facing. And then we can come up with solutions. I know that we need to finalize and formalize our codes, our requirements. We also need to come up with incentives. I've always been a fan of carrots rather than sticks. I think our business population is aware of that. I think in addition, we need to think about providing things that other parts of the county cannot provide and increasing the resilience of the businesses that are here before we try to increase the number of new businesses coming in. We can do both, but the existing ones I feel have to be the priority. And I would like to just see more carrots and incentives and options for the businessman.
Ward candidate Colbert,
All right, thank you. I
Ward 2.
totally agree with everything that's been said so far. In knocking doors in Ward 2, this is like topic 1B. There's 1A and 1B. This is 1B. A lot of concern about empty buildings, vacant buildings, businesses leaving, that kind of stuff. And not just downtown, also on McCaslin and in other places. It's not just centralized to downtown. I think we need to strengthen the business vitality or economic vitality manager role. Maybe give that person a little bit more control and some freedom to work with the businesses that we have currently, but also to attract new businesses. I've had quite a few conversations with the business owners that are here currently, and I can tell you right now, they are actively being sought after by other cities. So we've got to make sure that the businesses we have do not leave. We've got some great businesses here. We also need to attract some great. So I think we can do that by incentivizing and reducing regulation and mandates for sure. Thank you.
Ward 3 candidate Hefner.
Yeah, thanks so much. This is a really important question. And I think there's been some good ideas shared so far. Before I joined the city council, I sat on the planning commission for 5 or 6 years and saw a lot of the land use applications coming through the city. And really the conclusion I drew from that process, and one of the reasons I wanted to be on council, is we have in a lot of ways an outdated land use planning process that saves really important decisions until the very final step in the process. And we don't give businesses looking to expand or relocate here enough certainty early on about what the expectations are. And so the number one thing that I really hope to accomplish, and we have a comprehensive plan coming up, followed by land use code changes, is provide certainty about what it is we're looking for. What does a good development look like? What does a sustainable development look like? And say that up front, so that businesses coming here can know what to expect, know what our values are, and can thrive here. And I think by adding some certainty, we could really improve. I would also agree with the point about relationships and improving our reputation. Thank you.
Ward 3, candidate Hamilton.
Thank you. There's three things I would say that I'd like to focus on as far as this topic is concerned. The first is incentives, the second is rezoning, and the third is collaborating in partnerships. So as far as incentives go, we do have the business assistance program, but I think we can do more to not only attract and retain businesses, but to also attract and retain businesses that can generate sales tax dollars for us, because that is fundamental to our budget, but also generate high-paying jobs for the citizens of Louisville as well. As far as rezoning goes, I think there's a lot of opportunity on the McCaslin corridor to reimagine that space and how we can maybe build a nice area that has not just commercial, but also housing opportunities as well there. And then finally, to partner. You know, we just approved a concept plan review process, which I think is a great step to alleviate some of the challenges my partner here just mentioned. But I think we can continue to do more to build relationships. Thank you.
The next question will begin with Ward 1, candidate Dickinson. What impact do you think the newly adopted building codes have had on the economic vitality in Louisville? And what would you do to address whatever impact you think they may have had? Thank you.
Yeah, I usually just copy what the person before me says. This is nerve-wracking. I think the building codes are maybe scarier in theory than they are in practice in some cases. So we have one of the most forward environmental codes that one can have, which is fantastic. But one of the things I'm concerned about in general is preventing the construction of any building with the best possible code we could think of, versus getting a feather in our cap by having the most environmentally friendly building built here in Louisville. And if it doesn't get built here in Louisville, it's getting built somewhere else to a lower standard. So how do we keep our standards, but get these really cool new buildings to be built? And so again, that's about understanding what the limitations are and what the problems are and how to get through that and have some relationships and faith that we will get to the other side of those complicated issues.
Ward 2, candidate Fahey, please.
Yes, I will agree with what Councilmember Dickinson just said, but I'll add that we do have building codes for the 2021 ICC code, building codes for commercial and for residential. We also have some incentives in place. We do not have full clarification of what the requirements are for certain buildings according to their size or their use or whatever. When we put the building codes in place, I did voice an amendment that got passed, allowing hospitals, restaurants, and certain industrial companies to be exempt from the requirement of no gas, because some businesses need gas. We need to come up with a finalized version of what we require and then find some incentives and some motivations for people to build according to our requirements.
Ward 2, candidate Colbert.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I would also agree with everything that was said there. To Caleb's point, maybe it's not as bad as it seems, but perception, the citizens' perception is going to be our reality, right? So we need to make sure that we don't create barriers to entry, we don't drive up costs and those types of things. I think the intention is honest and it's there, but we just need to be careful about it. We need to take measured steps when we're taking these approaches.
Ward 3, candidate Hefner.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Obviously this is an issue that has garnered quite a lot of attention, especially on the residential side of the building codes. 2021 is a little bit behind us now. And these codes are probably going to continue the way I see it. Going forward, though, I agree with the point that we need to think through what are the appropriate incentives to get folks to build to a higher standard if that's what we really want. And how do we make sure they're coming to Louisville and not going to Lafayette or Castle Rock or Parker or whatever the case may be. I also think this is an issue of reputation where we don't necessarily want to have the reputation of always adopting the most strict regulation on business or the most this or the most that. I think we need to be balanced. We need to look at what our peers are doing. We need to be a leader, but we don't want to be so far out in front that businesses are leaving here to go somewhere else.
Ward 3, candidate Hamilton.
Thank you. Well, I certainly think the intentions behind these building codes are well-meaning. We don't want to cause undue hardship to our businesses. They're so vital to our economy and provide the sales tax dollars that we need to do other programs in the community, like affordable housing, like our comprehensive plan, our decarbonization plan. So I think when we go about actually putting these plans in place, partnering and education are going to be huge. And then looking to see where there are funds available. There are grants out there, and how do we support our small businesses in obtaining those grants? Because they need to spend their time with their business, growing their business, balancing the books. So how can we have staff and services in place that support them to get the money to meet the codes that we're putting in place?
Mayor candidate Summer.
Thank you. I believe these codes have had a very chilling effect on businesses. And I'd like to point out 3 things that I believe. The first is that leaders need to be in step with those that they're leading. If these codes are unachievable, then we're not being good leaders. We need to pitch our leadership towards what is possible. I look at the example of the Marshall Fire, and I really believe, in retrospect, with all the benefit of hindsight, it would have been better to have lower codes that were more achievable, as well as higher standards that were spelled out for those who were able to follow them. And I think that's what we should do for businesses. I also believe that, I forgot my thought. I just think it's really important that we stay in step. Incentives are good, but when we give incentives to one thing, we need to find money from somewhere else. So we need to think hard, what should we cut in order to give incentives? Thank you.
Mayor candidate Day.
Yeah, one of the things that I think has been a problem in the last few years is this pitting of sort of environmental people against businesses. A lot of businesses want to do the right thing. They want to be sustainable. Their customers demand it. And they're interested in being good citizens. I think that's one thing. I think another is we didn't go through a very good process in this one. We didn't get enough input from the business community. I think we passed a bill that wasn't, or an ordinance that wasn't quite ready for prime time, and I only supported it because we had made a commitment to come back and fix it. And we're trying to do that right now. We've got a process by which we've gotten some input. We'll get some more input, and we will come back and make some changes that fix things like the impossible standards, because there are some parts of this ordinance that businesses can't comply with technologically. That's wrong. So those are the kind of ideas I think I have. We don't want to price ourselves out of the market. Thank you.
Mayor candidate Cooperman.
Thank you very much for that question. As a member of the Louisville Sustainability Advisory Board and as a private citizen, I advocated for the commercial building codes that we recently passed. Because I think these codes are necessary in our efforts to tackle climate change. And I would like to point out that there have been a few applications recently for buildings in the CTC where the builders have come in and they have either met or exceeded our current codes in their proposals. That said, I'm very much open to the revisions that have been suggested for some of the commercial building codes. For instance, there are some places where people are required to replace equipment before its life is over. And that is generally not a good idea. You might as well use it until it's finished working. Finally, I'd just like to say, I think these building codes will help us get ahead of the curve. Other places where they have lesser building codes will eventually have to
Thank you.
update their buildings, and that'll be more costly.
Board candidate Fahey is going to get the next question. Ward 2 candidate. We've had a lot of questions on fire mitigation strategies. What fire mitigation strategies do you support? What role for this should the city play to encourage property owners to engage in fire hardening and mitigation?
Well, as one of those residents who lost a home in the fire, I have a very personal feeling about this issue. I support any effort that the city can make in fire mitigation things. Mowing, they're already having the cattle and goats grazing in the open spaces. Taking care of that is very important. We need to somehow manage our open space so that it's natural things growing that we can take care of. And for fire hardening, for the people building back, we get incentives in order to build back, which is very helpful. And we are encouraged and given landscaping opportunities for after we move back in, that will also be fire safe landscaping that will hopefully delay a fire or prevent it from spreading. Anything we can do, I'm in favor of.
Thank you. Ward 2 candidate Colbert.
Thank you. Great question. I agree. I'm all for anything that will help with fire mitigation. We did not lose our home, but we did have significant smoke damage. I think there's a lot of things that we can do. Maintaining our open spaces, I think, is a great first step. I think we need to explore fire suppression systems. I think there's some conversation there, but there are some opportunities to put some suppression systems around our city. Anything we can do with fire mitigation, fire hardening, I think it's great that there are incentives for our folks that are rebuilding now. But I think we should find a way to spread that throughout the community. I would love to do more fire hardening on our house to help if I can. Also an emergency preparedness system. I know, like everybody else, I didn't get a warning. Being from Oklahoma, I'm used to evacuating when there's a tornado. So when I saw the smoke, we got out quickly, but others weren't, they didn't have that same luxury. So I'd really like to expand the preparedness and like to help with some tabletop exercises with our emergency departments.
Ward 3 candidate Hedman.
Thank you. I think this is an area where the city can really lead the way. First and foremost, by managing the open space. I believe it's so critical that we all vote yes on the ballot issue that's going to be on the election on your ballots coming up in November to increase funding for open space management. A lot of that money is needed to go toward mitigation in the open space, reduce the height of grasses, create buffers around homes, so on and so forth. We've just received a report on fire hardening and strategies for city facilities. I think the city needs to lead the way by example by addressing its own facilities first. And then there's a huge role for education, right? We need to make it as easy as possible for folks who are interested in doing this at their own homes to pick the right materials, to pick the new kind of fencing, to pick the right kind of roofing materials. And when the time comes to replace or when the time comes to renovate, do it with fire hard materials, do it with materials that aren't going to spread wildfire. And then I think my final point is, I'll leave it to. My final point.
Ward 3 candidate Hamilton.
Thank you so much. I would say there's three ways that I would start to tackle this as far as the city is concerned. The first is education. Education, not just only with residents, but with contractors as well. A lot of these materials they haven't worked with before, and so they don't even know where to start. So let's work to educate where they can find those materials and what it's like to build with them. The second thing I would mention is open space management, which has already been mentioned, and the importance of passing a 2C to fund all of those measures. we did have consultants just present to us a couple weeks ago, and they said a lot of their recommendations we're already doing. That doesn't mean there's not room for improvement, but that was really great to hear. And then finally, I think it's worth having conversations about building codes. I've heard from many residents in the fire impacted neighborhoods that insurability is a big challenge. And when insurance companies look at insuring areas, they look to see what the building codes are and how many buildings were built with those codes. Thank you.
Mayor candidate Summer.
It's very important that we address this. It's a safety issue. And as Councilmember Hamilton said, it's also very important that we're able to keep insurance insurable in this town. So number one, we need to adopt the wildland urban interface codes for all new buildings, all new developments and modifications with an exemption of fire families. All other buildings should be adhering to those codes. We need to vote yes on the open space tax renewal so that we can keep our open spaces maintained and as safe as we can. Finally, I've spoken to a member of the fire board, and we would like to have educational materials prepared so that residents have a very clear understanding of what they can do to keep their landscaping maintained and to make their homes safer. We need to have fire protection board protection members go to individuals' homes as desired and advise them so that we can all make each other safer. Thank you.
Mayor candidate Day.
I think the thing that makes me the most sad is that we haven't learned enough from our experience, and we really should be the leaders in the state on these kinds of issues because we suffered the most, at least our citizens did. I think it's not just a matter of education. I think it's a matter of bringing the builders and their clients together and making sure that there are incentives in place that those fire hardening methods become a part of the actual building that's happening. Clearly, on open space, we need to fight invasive weeds. We need to fight non-native species. We need to manage the open space. And we need to make it very clear to people the easy kinds of ways that people do fire hardening near the open space. It doesn't have to happen all the way around. Preparedness is important, and we ought to make sure that we finish off Campus Drive and other preparedness.
Mayor candidate Cooperman.
I strongly support wildfire mitigation measures on our open spaces. I'd like to see us go with the best practices and particularly those that are ecologically sound, because our open space is also for wildlife. In particular, I am very much in favor of mowing to create defensible spaces around structures that abut open space. And on the larger open spaces, I'm very much in favor of grazing and prescribed burns. I think that City Council should very soon have a conversation about adopting wild and urban interface codes. At the moment, I think that we should definitely adopt elements of those codes, at least in high-risk areas. I think we should also have a conversation about fire hardening existing structures. We should begin our efforts by thoroughly educating people about what measures they can take at their homes to fire harden them. Then we should also find incentives. And eventually, I think we should have some requirements for existing buildings in high-risk areas.
Thank you. Ward 1 candidate Dickinson.
We'll take a slightly different approach and talk about the climate crisis. We had 100-mile-an-hour winds taking wildfire across Highway 36. The mulch around your house isn't going to protect you if Highway 36 couldn't. So mitigation is incredibly important, just like voting is important. Your vote doesn't matter as one voter, but of course it matters, because if enough of you vote, that changes things, right? So we need to do our part in our houses. We need to do our part as a city. The county needs to do their part with their open space. The fire department needs to do their part. Everybody needs to do their part. And no one action is going to matter. No one action is going to accomplish it, but we all have to do our part. And it might seem a little silly to do this one thing or do that one thing when, well, that's not going to stop, you know, an ember flying through my window. But we all have to do those little pieces, and whatever mitigation we can do, I support.
For our next question. Sure, I can. For our next question, and we had a lot of questions about this as well. What would a successful Red Tail Ridge, the former storage tech site, what would a successful Red Tail Ridge development look like in your view? Would you encourage redevelopment, and if so, how? And we will begin with Ward 2 candidate Colbert.
Oh, great. Thank you. I was not involved with the first red, so this is a difficult question, and what I don't want to do is just throw a bunch of platitudes out there. Not being involved the first go round, I think if we were to have an opportunity to revisit, I would want to spend time in Ward 2 with the folks who live there and find out what they would like to see. I do think we missed a big opportunity, and I would like to see something move forward, something that could be very helpful to our economic vitality. And I'll just leave it at that. I think it goes to you. I'm not sure.
Lost track. Ward 3 candidate Hefner.
Yeah, thank you. For me, the starting place on this analysis is Red Tail Ridge is private property. The city doesn't own it. We don't get to dictate what happens there. We have to apply our land use code to whatever proposal comes in the front door. You know, I think there's some ability to shape that, some ability to say we want this and not that. But at the end of the day, our code is what our code is, and we need to be in a position of applying that fairly, even-handedly, and in a way that gets us what we want. How that should have been done for Red Tail Ridge, I think, is a pretty difficult question, even as the Monday morning quarterback. You know, I think I would look first to the city's values. We want affordable housing. We want open space, especially near housing, and we want a thriving business community. I think any proposal, we should be looking for those types of things while recognizing that our choice is bounded by existing law.
Ward candidate Hamilton.
Thank you. In addition to what Councilmember Hefner just mentioned, I do think this is a great opportunity for some housing. And I'm thinking not just of affordable housing, but also workforce housing too. And when we have workforce housing close to their work, that also ties into climate action and environmental sustainability, because they can walk to work, they can ride their bike to work. So I think while we are bound, and I agree, by land codes and it's private property, I think we could use that as an opportunity to take some of our values and ensure that they are put in place with the development in that area.
I'm going to have you give that to candidate Fahey, because I didn't ask her after, didn't stay within the ward. So I'm going to ask the question of candidate Fahey, Ward 2. We're trying to stay within the wards, but
Well, I will say that the Red Tail Ridge vote at council did come up when I was on council, and I voted in favor of it. Mostly or largely because it did fulfill all of the requirements that we had in the code. As Councilor Hefner said, we have to vote according to what's required, what's allowed by our current code, and that was allowed by current code. And in fact, they exceeded it. And so I voted in favor of it. If I vote in favor of it next time, they will again have to conform with all of the codes. I have a feeling that they will, but I don't know for sure. I don't think anyone does. So I guess that's all I will say. I will vote for anything that follows the code.
we're going to go to Mayor candidate Summer.
Yeah, this is a really important topic, and you know, the code is so important. That is the number one thing that city council members swear an oath to. And as a matter of fact, the planning commission has recommended denial of the current plan because this plan, like the other two, does not meet the guidelines of our code. That is what it is. The plan has all along been to grade 350 of the 400 acres, and that is not consistent with our code. And, ask the planning commissioners about that because that was their decision. I, like many people in Louisville, would love to see commercial development on this site. This is private property, and the owners have full rights to all they're entitled to in accordance with our code. I do not believe people want a sprawling development. This is our chance to have a compact development where we can have thriving commercial or whatever the residents say they want in our new comprehensive plan, and we must abide by the code. Thank you.
Mayor Candidate Lay.
I'm gonna sort of talk about the future. One of the things that I can't do is talk about the plating, because the plating is a quasi judicial matter that for candidates for council who are members of council, we have to wait to hear what's going to be presented in front of us as judges of the rules and the evidence. And frankly, it's something that when it comes time to vote on those kinds of things, nobody who's not a candidate, that is, people who are not currently on council, can promise anything with respect to that, because they're going to have to abide by the same rules that I do once it gets to that point. I think it's really important that we recognize the fact that it is a commercial development and that we follow the rules. That's the most important thing on that, and that we abide by the entitlements that are there as a result of the referendum election. Thank you.
Mayor Candidate Cooperman.
Thank you very much for that question. I think that the old storage tech site is a great site for redevelopment. But I would really like to see a development that is clustered on that old site, at least in its initial phase, so that if further phases do not get built, we can preserve much more open space. The type of development that I would like to see would include not just commercial, not just our hospital relocating, but also housing. I think housing down there, not only does the city need more housing, but that will help to make the development more sustainable, as was alluded to before. The development should also be much better connected to Broomfield. Just across the Northwest Parkway, there is tons of housing. Those people have very few resources. We could provide resources for those people. They could come into Louisville to spend their money. And in the process, we would make that development much more sustainable than it currently is.
Ward 1 Candidate Dickinson.
I think maybe another airport. Hey, open space, dog park, bike paths, the most amazing new buildings, most energy efficient buildings ever, innovative companies. We have a lot of aerospace companies in our community right now, a new hospital for a Vista. I would love to see affordable housing there, but they would need a GDP amendment. And they're not going to try a GDP amendment again. That's subject to referendum. That's not happening. So that boat has sailed. But I think what they do bring does have to fit the rules. And again, what I said at the very beginning is about relationships. What do they need to make a really good project go? And what do we want as a community there? But those things I mentioned sound wonderful on what is 400 acres of private land. I would love to see some open space there.
The next question. I'm sure we've covered everyone. We'll start with Ward 3 Candidate Hefner. And the question is about a Vista Hospital. What do you see as the future of a Vista Hospital? It's the largest employer in Louisville. If the hospital stays or goes, there could be a substantial impact. If they move, it could be substantial. What is your position in respect to this issue?
This on, can you hear me? I would say I'm committed to keeping the hospital in Louisville. We need to do whatever it takes, whether that's in their present location or in a new location in Louisville. They are our largest employer. It's a critical healthcare facility for our population, especially for our seniors. A lot of babies have been born there. It's such an important part of our community, and I think we need to be mindful of what a huge percent, not only of our economy it is, but of our healthcare system, their community members. They're critical to our success, and I think we need them here.
Candidate Ward 3, candidate Hamilton.
As a clinician myself, I understand that the services the hospital provides are vital to our community. They provide a lot of different services to our community in ways that may not be accessible if you had to travel for some members of our community. So I think the proximity is really important, whether it stays where it's at or it moves to another spot in Louisville. I think it's important that it stays here. And so I as well support that hospital and want to ensure not just for the services it provides, but for the jobs as well. As a clinician myself, it is a hard job to be a clinician and give yourself to your patients every day. So we need to be very, very thankful that we have those members in our community and that we have that hospital in our community supporting us today and hopefully into the future as well. Thank you.
Mayor candidate Summer.
Thank you for that question. So during the election, the Red Tail Ridge election, there was a rumor circulating that Avista would leave if we did not approve that development. So because it wasn't substantiated, I called Centura Health and I talked to an executive vice president, Dean Sanpay, and he said, is this substantiated? And he said, no, absolutely. Avista is not leaving Louisville. We're looking at locations, more than one location in Louisville, and the Red Tail Ridge site could be one of them, but it's not the only site. And this is not some kind of emergency move that we're doing. There's no problem. This is just part of normal routine planning, business plan. So I want to make that clear to everyone. The hospital is a valuable asset and it intends to stay here. And I certainly hope that the investors at Red Tail Ridge will do their part to move towards us so that we can move forward, so Avista can have a better place to locate to. And I also
Mayor candidate Lay.
I think this is a huge difference between at least candidates are and me. I don't know how anybody could say that Vista Hospital is necessarily going to stay. There is no Centura anymore. It's a Dennis Health. And they've said, as late as yesterday, a CEO from that hospital who is still with Dennis Health down in Georgia said that there's going to be a new facility. So it's either going to be here or somewhere else. And that is, to me, I'm not so sanguine that they're going to be here or that we need not do everything we possibly can do. It's been announced 2 years ago they were going to do it. It's supported a couple of days ago. Whether it stays depends on all of us. And we need to be very, very full-throated in our care for this large hospital that gives so much to our community and that operates like a small business or a big company.
Mayor candidate Zuckerman.
We should definitely strive to keep the Advent Health Avista Hospital in Louisville. It provides essential services and plenty of jobs. In the city, I would be supportive of the hospital moving to somewhere at Red Tail Ridge. I would also be supportive of the hospital moving to a different location, perhaps the Centennial Valley, where there's still a good deal of space. And I believe that the city should be supportive in helping the hospital to make plans for where it would like to relocate in Louisville. Wherever it does relocate, it would be great if we could connect it to public transit and better connect it to bicycle routes and pedestrians.
Ward 1 candidate Dickinson.
Thanks. Yeah, I think we need to be very concerned about this. Lowe's didn't leave Louisville because it doesn't like Louisville. Coles didn't leave Louisville because they didn't like Louisville. There are things they need, like access to highways and roads. And if you've ever been to a Vista, it takes you a while. And if you try to go when Mark's going to school, you're not getting there. So they need better access. And so that spot that they have right now is not good enough access. They need somewhere with better access. So I hope we can provide that kind of thing somewhere in Louisville, but the Red Tail Ridge site is the best chance at that site to keep them. So yes, like people said, biggest employer in our town and providing very important service, but they will go somewhere else if it makes more sense. We got to make it make sense here.
Ward 2 candidate Fahey.
I agree with most of what's been said. I think it's very important that we keep a Vista Hospital here. I had a conversation with the former director before he left, and he expressed great concern about being able to expand, not just because of better access, which was a critical issue for him, but also because the existing facility is not up to current codes and current needs regarding the care that they can provide. And so they have to build a new facility in order to continue functioning at the level that they're at. Not even hoping to expand, but just to continue where they're at. I will say that I think it's a very important facility. And mentioning, I think it was Barbara that said something about all the babies that were born there. My granddaughter was one of them. And so I think it's a very important place.
Ward 2 candidate Colbert.
Okay, I need to stretch my legs, so I'm gonna stand up. I agree with, again, mostly everything that's been said, but we absolutely cannot lose a Vista. It is our largest employer. It's critical to healthcare, all of these things. I would love to see a brand new green facility, hopefully in Red Tail. Business is business. And if they find a better business outcome, they will move. I read the same thing from the CEO. It's made it clear. We don't reach out, they will move. This is a great opportunity to show that we will reach out to our local businesses. We will make sure that they stay here.
The next question, we'll start with you. Ward 3 candidate Hamilton. This is about tackling housing challenges in Louisville. A lot of questions about housing. Let's see, what more should the city do to ensure housing affordability? Do you have ideas on how Louisville can develop more affordable housing? And as a follow-up, kind of the general thought is, how are younger families, our older senior residents going to be able to afford to live in Louisville?
Yeah, this is a very, very important question. And one of my top 3 priorities that you would see on my website, if you would go look at it, is housing, affordability, inclusivity, all of those things. And I'm thinking not just for families and our senior citizens, but I'm also thinking about our workforce as well. To me, the service industry folks who are so vital to our economy here, our teachers, you name it, you should be able to live in the community that you work. To me, that is just basic. And the fact that that can't happen here is not acceptable. I think we can begin to tackle this with a few different solutions, one of which I mentioned earlier, which is zoning. I think we need to reimagine. There's a lot of parking spaces along McCaslin that we don't need, these huge asphalt parking lots. Could we imagine some mixed zoning uses along there and develop some affordable housing, but make sure those individuals are connected to our community as a whole as well?
Ward 3 candidate Hefner.
Thank you. This is such an important issue. You know, we just saw the draft of a housing study for the city of Louisville, and it said we're underproducing new housing, and we're not alone in this among our neighbors, but we're underproducing new housing by a pretty significant rate and have been for a pretty significant length of time. And so I would start with we need to make it a little easier to add units to our existing stock. I think the comprehensive plan process that's coming up is a great opportunity to do that at places like the McCaslin corridor and other places. We know that restrictive zoning is one of the main impediments to affordable housing. And that if we change our land use code, the kinds of housing that we want will come if we do that thoughtfully and if we do it correctly. And I do think it's important, young families, seniors, all kinds of people. You should be able to live in Louisville if you work here, if you do business here, whatever the case may be. It should be a place for everyone, where folks are welcome, and you don't need to be a millionaire to live here. Thank you.
Mayor candidate Summer.
This is also one of my top priorities, and that's because it's a top priority for people in Louisville. But I think we need to start out with acknowledging some limits. The thing that people tell me that they love about Louisville is the small town character. We can't do everything. We have to recognize that our limits to what we can achieve, and that housing costs they're high everywhere, and we can do so much as a city. We need to respect the scale and mass of our town, I believe, because that's what we love. And I think there are ways that we can do that. We also need to respect our fiscal health, because housing doesn't pay its own way. So we need to think about housing affordability for everyone in our community when we're thinking about housing affordability, affordable housing. It's just so important. I think we can work with accessory dwelling units that are integrated into our town, not as an investment vehicle, but that can be affordable and for use of residents in higher density housing closer to transit. But I think we need to keep our expectations realistic and do all we can.
Mayor candidate Lay.
I agree that with most of the candidates that we are part of a larger economy. We're one of the 4 most expensive housing markets between the coasts. There's 4 of them. They're all in Colorado, and we're one of them. Yes, we are the victims of our own success, and the expense of housing is astonishing here, because partly we have a lot of single family. We can do a lot by changing some of our zoning and creating some transit oriented development close to the Caslin and 36. I think we can do that, and we'll do that in the coming 4 years. And we need to work together with business, with community, and on our comp plan to get the citizens input and try to do this in a way that maintains our character, because that's part of what small towns do. They have housing for all different levels of socioeconomic groups. Thank you.
Ward 1 candidate Dickinson.
Let's stick with the third mayor. Third mayor. I will not take.
I'm sorry, did I?
Let's get Josh go.
I have talked,
No, you're good.
I did. You're right. Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
As a private resident of Louisville, I have advocated extensively for more affordable housing before our city council for a variety of reasons. I think there are a variety of things that we can do to create more affordable housing in Louisville. What we need to start with is rezoning. We need to, first of all, look at places that are zoned for commercial and think really hard about rezoning those to mixed use or residential, including parking lots. I'm thinking about places like the Centennial Valley and Red Tail Ridge in particular. We should also think about zoning in existing neighborhoods, particularly places that are near our commercial centers. And we should allow things like ADUs, duplexes, and possibly more, depending on what the community would like to see. Once we do some rezoning, then we should partner with developers to actually build affordable housing. And there are a variety of ways we can incentivize those developers. First of all, by giving them concessions on our codes, and then by spending money from Proposition 123.
Ward 1 candidate Dickinson.
We need to do so many things. So ADUs is one of them, density allowances, If you have a lot, you can put a 4,000 square foot dwelling on. You cannot put 4 1,000 square foot dwellings. So our code is saying you cannot build small A affordable housing. We need big A affordable housing. We need to leverage Prop 123 and put our money where our mouth is. We need to buy properties, change zoning, say this should be low density or high density. This should be 60% AMI. Now build it, and then we sell it back to someone who now has certainty that they know what we want there and they know they can build it. We need to open up spaces that we are currently commercial and dead and been dead for the entire existence of their of the land. We need to think about those kind of rezonings in our comprehensive plan. We have so many little pieces that we need to do, but this is absolutely the most important thing to me, and I'm going to fight really hard for this for the next 4 years.
Ward 2, candidate Fahey.
I agree that housing, affordable housing, low-income housing is a critical thing that we need to add to the city. We can do it by, as was mentioned, by rezoning areas that are currently zoned commercial, by allowing ADUs. I've been an advocate of ADUs for a couple of years now. We are discussing things like that on council. And it's important because we do need to have some place for the people who work in the library or serve your coffee in the coffee shop or teach school. The educators in this area are not paid well enough to afford to live here. So I think that we need to increase the housing, and that can be done by, and as Councillor Dickinson said, by rezoning, by incentives to the builders, concessions, however we can get it through. Thank you.
Ward 2, candidate Colbert.
That's great. I think we're spot on with the rezoning. If we're all in agreement there, that's a great start for sure. We absolutely need to incentivize developers to include affordable units in their projects. We need to streamline permitting, all of our processes, and collaborate with public and private partnerships to leverage our resources effectively. Something I do want to talk about, just to add to that, is we moved here not that long ago, and our house has doubled in value very quickly. We couldn't move here today. We could 5 years ago, but now we could. We wanted to. We have a son who's sitting here in the audience. He's a senior at CU. He's going to graduate soon, and I would love for him to be able to come and live here with me. But likely he's going to have to move somewhere else. Hopefully not Denver, because I have to work down there. But we want him to be here. If he starts a family, we want our grandkids to be here eventually. Hopefully that's a long time from now.
The next question will start with Mayor candidate Lay.
Oh, sorry.
We good? Okay.
Ready to go.
All right. This is about infrastructure and police and water. Do we have the water, the police, infrastructure, the town infrastructure to provide for all the new housing you're talking and proposing, and the growth, and to sustain the growth that you're all talking about?
The answer to that is no, not right now. That is something we're going to have to think about before it's part of the whole calculus of how you grow. You need to grow in a smart way so that you don't take away too much from the commercial viability of parts of our town, so that we can continue to provide the level of service on police and the infrastructure that's necessary in order to sustain that. Another thing that we need to do, and I think this is one thing I'm working on, because I'm on the Louisville Revitalization Commission, is that we have money in certain parts of town on the east side in order to be able to provide the kind of infrastructure that may make it an awful lot easier to create places for folks to stay and for business to operate, transformative projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor candidate Cooperman.
Louisville has done, I would say, an extremely good job in acquiring water rights over the past number of years. And I think we have our previous city councils to thank for that. That said, our water rights are only as good as the water in the Colorado River, which is diminishing because of drought, in part due to climate change. So absolutely, when we're thinking about growing, we need to consider whether or not we have the water resources to support that growth. I believe we do have water resources to support some growth. For instance, when the city reviewed previous Red Tail Ridge proposals, they looked at that kind of question. And that would be a fairly substantial amount of growth for the city. As far as our police infrastructure, I think we have good police infrastructure to cover some growth. Again, when we were looking at Red Tail Ridge, we were thinking about building a new police station down at that site, which would be funded through revenue from that site.
Ward 1, candidate Dickinson. Oh, candidate Summer.
Yeah, this is a critical question. And while it may sound good to rezone masses of commercial areas to housing, housing does not pay its own way. And so there will be a deficit in our budget. We need to be very careful about rezoning. I've talked to so many residents who own property here, and they're afraid they may not be able to stay in Louisville because of rising taxes, because of inflation. So we need to keep a careful eye on our budget and really calculate the cost of a growing population. Our police department is staffed, but a growing population will mean that we need more police officers. That will cost more money. Fortunately, the way water works in Louisville is that development pays its own way. And so developers will have to bring water to the project. But what I want to say is we need to think very carefully about the moves we make because in the context, because growth is not free and residents need to be able to bear a burden if they can.
Thank you. Ward 1, candidate Dickinson.
Can you repeat the question? I'm serious.
Yes, I will.
I'm usually joking, but
That would help.
Sorry, working on the next one. It's about sustaining the growth we're talking about. Do we have the water, police, infrastructure to provide for all the new housing and growth we're proposing? And how do we have to sustain the growth?
thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So we do, with water rights, we have water rights we can buy, the infrastructure we have, I totally disagree with the idea that residents don't pay their own way. I know you all contribute, and that's why our city works. That's why we have this rec center, is because of all the residents. It's why we have all the things we have in this community, is because you all live here and you pay your taxes and you buy things. Remember, shop local this Christmas. So absolutely, and we can add new people to our community because that's small town character. Small town character says, welcome, here's a pie. Right? Small town character says, we'd love to include you in our community. And we built a rec center for you. Will you start paying the fees, please? We have a whole water facility for you. Will you pay for your water tap to add water to your home? And then will you pay your water bill? Right? We have the mechanisms to add people to our community that already exists. And every one of you does cost us money, but we have laid the foundation to be able to add 5% more to our population without stressing all of our resources. And humans need water wherever they live. Doesn't work to tell them they can't live here, go get your water somewhere else.
Ward 2,
Got a little tense, I apologize.
Ward 2 candidate Fahey.
I agree that we do have a lot of water rights here in the city, certainly sufficient for us now and in excess. And we also have the ability to purchase more water rights. As Councilor Dickinson said, as more people come in, there are more people paying the taxes that pay for the water infrastructure and also for the police department. The police department here is currently close to being fully staffed. And the only reason we're not over and above is because we can't find people who want to be a police officer anymore. it's the same challenge that RTD is having finding bus drivers and the schools are finding teachers because they just can't find the employees. So we are making some changes at the police department. Also, we have a new police chief that just started. He's getting in and getting stopped. Okay.
You're gonna get stopped.
Ward two,
Thank you.
candidate Colbert.
I'm gonna stand up again because I've been sitting alone. No, I agree here. I think we have the ability to grow. And if we bring more people in, if we have an economic vitality, we're gonna have the sales taxes, the things that we need to grow our staffs, if we need to grow them. I think if we grow our population, I don't think anyone here is advocating for unreasonable growth. We're talking about a small percentage in growth to make sure that we're replacing tax-paying citizens and those types of things. I would say one thing about our police force, which I think is great. I think as we add more folks, so that's more opportunities for opportunists. So I want to make sure that we keep the police force staff and that we're able to make regular routes around the city. We recently had someone try to break into our car, and I think that's kind of become pervasive a little bit lately. So I really want to see some focus on that and make sure as we grow that we keep our streets safe and people feel safe moving.
Candidate, Ward three, candidate Hefner.
Yeah, thanks so much. I don't think the need to sort of improve infrastructure would be a good reason to not welcome new folks into our community. The city is extraordinarily good, in my view, at medium and long-term planning. We're just finishing up our budget cycle now, and we project out sales tax and we project out property tax and we project out what's the improvement that's going to be needed for the water treatment plant in 5 years and 10 years and 20 years and budget for that. And I think as long as the growth is measured and responsible and done in a way that's consistent with our values, we will rise to meet the challenge. I think we've done a good job already of keeping up with our roads and keeping up with our water treatment facilities, keeping up with improving city facilities to accommodate new staff. And I have no doubt that we'll be able to continue to do so in the future to make sure Louisville continues to thrive.
Ward three, candidate Hamilton.
Thank you very much for that question. I think fundamental to all of this is to ensure that any growth is done responsibly and in a mindful way. Of course, we have to take infrastructure in mind here when we make these decisions. And I would actually say one of my strengths that I think I have is that I work in biotech, which is a very forward-thinking field. We find solutions to things that solutions don't exist right now. And I think that's the sort of thing that we're going to need with strategic mindful growth is not how do we solve things now, but how could we possibly solve them in the future and be the town that does that has responsible growth in a mindful way, environmentally, as far as jobs for our citizens, all of those sorts of things, so we can maintain the charm, but be really forward thinking in our solutions that we might need to have for infrastructure, not just buying water rights, but other options as well that none of us can think of right now.
We're going to start with Mayor candidate Cooperman, and this will be our last question. Time flies when you're having fun, huh? Okay, so this is kind of a general question for you. What is your vision for the next 5, 10, even 20 years for Louisville? And what are the major challenges for the city and your vision?
In 1 minute.
Thank you very much for that question. First of all, I would like to see the city and the community well on its way to carbon neutrality over the next 10 or 15 years. I would like to see us have significantly more affordable housing units over the next 5 or 10 years. I would like to see our downtown become much more vibrant in the next few years. And I would like to see people walking and bicycling much more so than they currently do. Again, hopefully in the next 2 years. I would also like to see that we've completed a lot of fire hardening work, at least in high-risk areas, in the next 5 or 10 years, and that we've established well-monitored wildfire mitigation on our open spaces within the next 2 years.
Mayor,
Finally,
oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
I didn't see assignments.
Last sentence.
One more sentence.
It'll be Mayor Candidate Summer.
I really like this question. In fact, I love it. I'm running because I love Louisville as much as you do. When I talk to people, I ask them, what do you love about Louisville? And they say, we love the small town character. We love the community. We love that it's easy to get around. We love the open spaces and the trails. We just love everything. And you know what? In 5, 10, 15 years, I want people to be able to say that. I want us to maintain our character. We're not Denver, we're not Boulder, we're not Lafayette. We are Louisville, and it's a wonderful place. And the priorities that I've heard from people and that I fully support are economic vitality, affordable housing, fire mitigation, and continued support for fire families, and paying careful attention to the comprehensive plan. In all of those things, I will be thinking about our small town character, the people I've talked to, and keeping Louisville the small, the connected, the lovely place that we love so much. Thank you.
Mayor Candidate Lay.
I'm gonna stand for this one. Like Steve stretching too. I think vision is really important, because without it, people perish, right? I think we're getting ready for a comprehensive plan that we're gonna have a whole bit of community input for the next 10 years. And that's really the first part, the input of our citizens. We need to be, in my view, a welcoming community, a thriving economy with a hospital and small businesses and larger businesses. And we need to have safe streets and safe schools. And we need to have the services, the basic city services that can serve them all. And I think if we do those kinds of things, we're going to be able to be the kind of city that keeps faith with the future and that can change nimbly and appropriately with new challenges. Thanks.
Ward 1 Candidate Dickinson.
Tomorrow's yesterday is today, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think this is a really hard question for me because I like Louisville a lot, how it is. Like I'm really happy. I love our farmers market. I love the street fair. I love going downtown. Our schools are amazing. Our parks are amazing. But it's so great, right? Like I think a lot of us are here because Louisville's so great. And I think what I'm excited about are all the things that I don't know are coming and how we address that. All the changes. My wife is here, our wedding vows say, I promise to change. And so I promise to change, and I promise to let you change. I promise to take that in as what it is. We're going to change, and to not change would make no sense. But can we do it in a way that's loving? Can we do it in a way where we're in community and we're talking about how we want that change to look, and that not have every change be scary, and not change just to change, but to change with each other. I'm only going to marry for 4 years though.
Ward 2 Candidate Fahey.
I will go along with what's been said. I think it's important that we maintain our character, that we get a vibrant downtown, that we get a vibrant tech center and a vibrant McCaslin corridor. And then at the same time, increase our housing so that everyone who wants to live here or work here can afford to be here. We need to maintain our infrastructure. We need to prepare in so many ways for the coming changes with the climate. Fire mitigation is a big one in my mind. Also flood mitigation and what other disasters are going to come about. We need to be prepared for whatever we're dealt. And so that means financially, we have to have the economy going. And being supported by you, by the businesses, by the people who come and shop here and visit us.
Ward 2, candidate Colbert.
Can you repeat the question, please? I feel like it was two-part, and I may have missed one. I'm sorry. I apologize.
What is your vision for the next 5, 10, 20 years for Louisville? And what are the major challenges for the city as
For
it
the
relates
city,
to your vision?
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I would love to see a vibrant and thriving downtown, vibrant and thriving McCaslin. I'd love to see some affordable homes. I'd love to see our neighbors who lost their homes back home and settle. Change is inevitable. I think that was a great topic that everyone just hit here. Change is inevitable. We need to embrace it and we need to manage it. If we don't manage the change will manage us. Key challenges, economic vitality is absolutely essential. I think right now what I saw in the budget was economic vitality makes up 0.5% of our budget right now. I think we need to make some changes there and spend some more and get some more focus on economic vitality. Also fire mitigation and preparedness. I spoke to that earlier, so I won't belabor that anymore, but also addressing the safety of our streets. I love that it's a walkable city, but it's been really tough lately. I just see people zooming through here, not paying attention to our crosswalks, not paying attention to the pedestrians and these kids. I love that the kids can just run around free range, and I'm done. I'm sorry. So, safe streets.
Ward 3, candidate Hefner.
Yeah, thank you. I'll finish that thought and agree that pedestrian safety and bike safety is critical and folks are moving around in different ways than they used to. You know, I think that the root of this question comes for me down to what does it feel like to live here? I think we all feel that this is a special place and it's a place that's unique. And we're different than a lot of our neighbors in the Front Range and different than a lot of other places in the country. And keeping hold of that sort of that special, whatever it is, the feather in our cap, whatever it is for you. I think for a lot of people, it's a sense of community, knowing your neighbors, seeing people, you know, walking down the street. You might find it downtown, you might find it in the open space, you might find it in your class at the rec center or at the farmer's market, at the concerts in the park. Whatever the case may be, I think a lot of us have really important communities here. And I would hope that somebody moving here in 5, 10, or 20 years would find a similar community to the one that I've certainly found here, and I think lots of us have.
Ward 3, candidate Hamilton.
Thank you. I've actually thought a lot about this question, so much so that I have my vision written down. It's on my website as well, so I'm going to read it to you. My vision for Louisville in 10 years comes down to 3 words. It's live, work, and play. I envision an inclusive, environmentally conscious community that attracts innovative businesses and high-quality jobs that can be accessed through safe multimodal transportation from residential areas. I envision a vibrant community with a flourishing art and cultural scene that is also a hub for outdoor enthusiasts and foodies alike. I envision a community that our children desire to move back to when they become adults.
On behalf of the league and our co-sponsors, the Downtown Business Association and the Louisville Chamber of Commerce, I would like to thank our candidates, not only for your participation, in tonight's forum, but your participation in the democratic process. It is not an easy task running for office and serving as an elected official. It's hard work. And thank you to our forum volunteers for your essential help. And a huge thank you goes to our 2023 election sponsors. That's C. James Lovett, Simmons Family Fund, Laura Holloway, Marie Dolores Young, Karen Yurst, and Shirley White, and our corporate sponsors, Elevations Credit Union, Christina's Luxury, Gigi and Company Pet Products, Wolfgang Boulder, and Rags Consignment. And finally, thanks to this wonderful forum audience, both here and viewing online. I want to thank you for your patience with me and my learning a new system of rotation, which I still am not completely sure I understand, but I try. It's up to all of us to make sure we respect and work to protect our democratic processes. We encourage everyone to get out and vote. For more information about the upcoming election and for the candidates, they've responded. Please go to the league's premier voter information site. That's vote411.org. Vote411.org. And remember, democracy is not a spectator sport. Thank you all for coming. Please, if you would exit as soon as you could, because the center is closing and we want to not keep the staff for too long. And joining me in a big round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you very much.